So footy is continuing to heat up, and it was an intriguing battle we're talking about between Adelaide and the Lions in the AAMI Community Series. We have emerging midfielders, we have tactical tweaks in the forward line. There was plenty of takeaways for both teams that will see us fine-tune their setups as we go into 2025. What we'll be doing in this video, as always, we'll have a full match recap, try and keep you up to date, and the 5 key takeaways that I saw in this game. And then we'll have a bit of a discussion about which players might explode. But before we stuck in, like and subscribe for all things AFL. We're going to try and have a massive year. We really want to hit 10k. So if you could help me do that, that would be grouse. And while you do that, let's run that intro with that funky music. It was a tale of two halves, this game, really, and Adelaide managed to grind out a 3-point win in this game in what was really a locked-in type game. Brisbane came out of the blocks really strongly. Adelaide pegged them back. They were drawing at half-time, and with the lead changing hands and fluxing in the second half, Adelaide managed to stay on top. Adelaide looked sharp, really, in this game. Their midfield looked really strong in transition, but also creating a lot of forward half opportunities. The Crows, they really did look strong around clearances, and John Dawson really did put his hand up. Lots of players floating through there for Adelaide as well, really giving them a different look at what it looks like. And from last year, which was quite disappointing, this will give a little bit of hope, I think. The Lions in the third quarter looked absolutely strong. Their midfield depth is just something else. Lachie Neale standing up. Dunkley, you had Zac Bailey really bossing that half-forward line. And even Eric Hipwood, who we'll talk about a bit later, he looked really strong. It was Brisbane's experience and adaptability that really got them into this game. But what was intriguing was the desire and the fight from Adelaide. And this is going to be a really interesting one to watch in the season. I always say in these practice games, we're not looking at the result, we're looking at the application. But there was a real desire, and to knock back a 22-point lead just showed that they're trying to learn the right things. At times last year, Adelaide felt way too easy to beat. So let's get into them 5 takeaways. And the first one is Peatling and Soligo. The development of Soligo, but Peatling as well, just kind of adds something to that midfield. For me, their next step this year is that midfield needs to be some PODs. And Jordan Dawson working with Peatling was a joy to behold. And this game showed that that midfield mix might just be right. The addition of Jake Soligo's improvement with Peatling just really gives them something, particularly in Peatling's case, to keep the ball moving. He proved why he was such a good off-season pickup, showed his ability to win the ball, but also be very clean and make the right decisions. Finishing with 21 touches, 6 clearances and 5 score involvements. He was a very, very continuous presence. And when you look at the best midfielders, they always have 2 or 3 who get like 20 to 25 and just keep the chains moving, to use an NFL term. And it was just the delivery was really solid. There was pressure as well. And he looked to free up Dawson at all points. Adelaide played faster and more transitional, efficient in this game. And that's something that we've seen from the first 2 games. Soligo, we've talked about him a lot. His upward trajectory looks really strong. 21 touches again, very offensive, 369 metres, 8 score involvements. His ability to break lines, his ability to run on, create extras, which allows Adelaide to overload the midfield, which we saw quite a bit in the second quarter and the fourth quarter, gives them a different dynamic. And then when you think that they've got so many players that they can float through here, Keys, Laird, even though he's playing at halfback, it told me that they've moved on from Matt Crouch. Now, Matt Crouch wasn't bad in this game, but he was the kind of guy that did that kind of chain mover type player. And I think in Peatling, they've got a bit more grunt there, but they've also got a little bit more panache and class. And when you add that they're going to float players through there like Rankine and Rochelle as time goes on, this is a really, really dangerous midfield. I think their base is really good. So their midfield looks new. It's more balanced, in my opinion. It's definitely more dynamic. Can they cause real problems in 2025? Up next is Eric Hipwood. And this might not be one of them games when you have 2 goals, 4 marks, 7 score involvements that you go, oh, okay, yeah, he's killer. But I think it was really understated here. And what I'm going to explain here is why. It wasn't just the scoreboard impact. I really enjoyed how he stepped up. There was a bit of leadership there. He's not that traditional stay-at-home forward as well. He works high up the ground and plays a link. Now, Chris Fagan is a master of tactical tweaks. We saw him last year lose Kitty Coleman. Huge transitional threat. And if that happened to any other side, they'd probably be stagnated. But he changed. Brought Zorko down the back. From a run and carry side, they really looked to play give and goes a bit more. And the spread became real responsible down the back. In this game, we really did see something similar. Hipwood might have been the main man in attack, but they floated so many players across half forward, and it really improved the midfield output. Dunkley played half forward back in the day when he was at the Doggies. He showed that again. Zac Bailey, for me, being that constant conduit and that constant link man. Levi Ashcroft, he rotated, and that added an extra layer. And all these midfielders, when you saw Berry as well go across half forward, it's a very dangerous forward setup if they do choose to go smaller. Now, you look at Collingwood when they won the flag, there was Majacek and not many other people around him. It was a host of medium-sized players and smaller players. You really see the way Brisbane's ball movement works and that indecision, because it's a nightmare for matchups when players are rotating across half forward, suddenly looks solid and you can see it working. And it protects their younger toes as they come into the system. There was a lot more lead-up play. They really looked to play it in. I'm really enjoying it. So I could see Brisbane maybe shifting from that traditional two-giant system and looking for a real mobile structure. Hipwood will definitely be the main target, and I really liked how he stood up in this game. I think there's a little bit of hope there because you've always waited for Hipwood to go the next level. Many versatile options around him. I think they'll still be quite dangerous. Wouldn't be the PommyInOz show, would it? If I didn't talk about my boy, Sid Draper. And you know what, Sid Draper, I was one of the few that enjoyed his game versus Port. I thought putting him on Zach Butters, yes, it ruined his output, but it ultimately will serve him in the future because these are the type of players he's got to beat. And although he only played probably a quarter and 3/4 of another quarter, he really did look to make things happen, particularly towards the end of the game. This last quarter was exceptional. Finishing with 14 touches, 5 clearances, 2 tackles. An absolute dynamo-type player. He got them going forward. He created spread. The overload he creates from stoppage by him taking off, playing someone in, it drags people out. And what really impressed me was his work around stoppage. The good players lose you around stoppage. And time again, Sid Draper lost his man at stoppage. His speed is elite, but also quick thinking, quick hands, getting them to move faster and really overload that back half of the ground. He's not afraid to take the game on, and he's not taking a backward step. And this really did excite me because we talked about Adelaide's midfield earlier in the show. This is a bit of hope, and I think this is really, really something to look forward to. Zac Bailey, for me, incredibly underrated. 4 marks, 2 of them on the lead, 1 goal, 6 scoring involvements, playing that kind of like Jack Martin role in this game. And his ability to find space, his understanding of where the forward line is around him is crucial. And it just really allows Brisbane to have a deeper entry, but also some dynamicness at half forward and when it is a bit shallower. His ability to bring players in as well, looking at runners coming in, when the wings look to run in. You saw it with Neale and Dunkley when they tried to burst forward. Bailey has a really good understanding, and he reminds me of an old school Cam in soccer, that once he has the ball, he's got the ability to go himself, but he's also looking around him. I think from an attacking structure point, Zac Bailey is grouse, and he's definitely be a player. If I was a list manager, I would be constantly trying to prize from this side. When you look at the midfield there as well, and this is why I don't think their forward line is so dangerous, you've got McCluggage, Dunkley, Neale, all have the ability to impact the scoreboard. What makes Brisbane such a good side, even without Danaher, is they've got goals just about everywhere in their team. And Bailey is a key part of that because he knows when to slow down the game and make it quicker when it gets into them hot zones. And finally, Lachie Neale. Now, we know Lachie Neale last year came out and said that he was injured most of it, and he still had a ridiculous year, it has to be said. But this game here, 10 clearances, 10 scoring involvements, 445 metres gained, 5 marks, 30 touches for 1 goal. Doesn't matter who emerges in this midfield. Fagan is probably the best coach in the league at freeing up his key asset. Neale dominates around stoppage, around the ground, around centre clearance, and he really did take control of this game, particularly in the second half and the start of the fourth, creating scoring involvements, getting them going, constantly being a game changer. He reminds me of a quarterback. He reminds me of like a Patrick Mahomes type player, that he can damage you himself, but he knows when to go and when not to. And this was really, really, really impressive. It gives us a real good insight in where Neale is, but if Neale stays fit, for me, he's one of the best midfielders to watch in the game. So let's look at these takeaways in isolation. For me, the Adelaide, the biggest positive is they've definitely got some good midfield balance. Peatling looks one hell of a pickup. It's allowed Jordan Dawson to be a lot more free, not overwork the core midfielders, and I think it's a glimpse that things are starting to come together. Peatling's ability just to be the glue, and then when you add the sexy things they'll throw in there, when it's Rochelle, Rankine, Sid Draper, I think that makes a massive difference for them. I think they've moved on from Matt Crouch, and you can start to see that difference when Crouchy was there and when the others were there. The midfield structure for me showed real promise, but I also enjoyed Adelaide from the back to the front. There is obviously question marks, though. At times, it felt like they put themselves under a bit of pressure just from poor efficiency, but it is building, and Adelaide definitely will be in that mix for the lower tier of the 8, I think. Brisbane, wow, they just continue to redevelop, don't they? And I really did, even though this was a loss, I really did enjoy what I saw. Their third quarter, their spot, and the start of the fourth, they really did show how they can just pile on the goals very quickly. And you could maybe make an argument that the last 10 minutes, the breaks came on. All in all, a good hit out for both sides. I think that both of them will have liked the intensity and the combativeness of this game. And this season coming, we're going to learn a lot what they learn in this game in the real deal. But you've only can do what you can do. It was a really enjoyable game. Let me know what you think in the comments, chat. Did you enjoy this game? Who was your takeouts? Were you impressed by Adelaide's midfield? Do you think Brisbane's forward line shake-up still has goals? I do. Let me know in the comments. And until next time, Pom out.
Spent all my life holding all of it closely. I played it